One of my favorite stories from Skinwalker Ranch is when James Latatsky saw the crazy floating Mobius loop in the air when he was talking to Bob Bigelow when he first went out there, and that's the event that kickstarted the creation of ALSAT, BASS, and led to ATIP and our current age of UFO disclosure. All began during this one event with this crazy, weird object thing appeared to James in the middle of the air and only he could see it. Well, today I just got some new information about it, which synchronicities really intriguing. So let's talk about it. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. Get in here. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like. Please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Please share this video when it drops on social media and consider joining me on social media, Facebook and Twitter links below. And please comment on the story as I'm going through it. Okay, this is from a Twitter thread by Joe Murgia. He says this is easily his favorite anecdote thus far. And he plays a song which ties into everything. I'm not actually going to play this song, but it's from the album Tubular Bells. YouTube doesn't really like music very much. Let's see. This afternoon, as Bob Bigelow and Colm Kelleher called me about the second project on ASAP. This is from Joe. We've agreed I would do. They caught me at the wheel of the Highlander. I'm just reading here. As I had just parked it in Berkeley, I was with Janine, who had gone into a used bookstore to sell her brother's old. Let's see. Is this James Latatsky speaking? Anyway, I'll continue. We'll figure it out. So I was with Janine, who had gone into a used bookstore to sell her brother's old vinyl records, helping her carry the heavy boxes. One record on top of a pile caught my eye. It was Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, with the now famous pretzel symbol on the cover, resembling the object that had appeared to Dr. Latatsky on his first visit. We're not selling this one, I told Janine, and I carried it back to the truck for safekeeping. That's the exact moment when Bob Bigelow and Colm Kelleher called me on my cell phone. Hal comments on this, an obvious intersign. Yes, sometimes it looks like all is scripted, he says. Now Roger Brenner tells me that Tubular Bells was used as the music for The Exorcist. And that actually has a little component later in the story. So we have this crazy object that appears to James. And we've got this weird synchronicity with the similar object in Tubular Bells. And that very music used in the movie The Exorcist. And then some kind of iconography, if you will, from The Exorcist appears later in the story. And it's a detail I had never heard before. Let's see. Continuing. Oh, here's the full song. Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells. It's 25 minutes. Wow. James Latatsky, a rocket scientist who ran ALSAP, shared his story on Coast to Coast with George Norrie. We went into the ranch manager's home and sat down. Now we were having a casual conversation. You know, I'm certainly noticing there are 12 or more crosses and crucifixes on the wall. And I was thinking, Jim, I wonder if I should really have come here. So this is when James Latatsky, I believe he had read George Knapp's first book, about Skinwalker Ranch, and he went out there to take a look for himself, and that's when he had this crazy encounter, and he was met by Bob Bigelow, and you'll see what happens if you don't know the story already. So he goes in there, he sees these crosses on the wall, he says, maybe I shouldn't have come here. But in any case, we're having a nice conversation, and then Bob Bigelow and the ranch managers went into, I'd best call it a personal finance discussion, which I felt kind of awkward being there. And I kind of went into a daze, just glancing around the room, seeing what's the lay of the land in the rooms. And then this object appears, floating in the kitchen, quite distinct. I mean, I looked away from it, and it maintained its position and allowed me, I guess, actively allowed me to come back and look at it and examine it more closely. It was not a blurry vision. It was not a speck in my eye. It was there. It was about 18 inches tall, 18 inches wide, floating in the middle of the kitchen. And that kitchen is quite distinct. Its style is 1950 style, so the colors of the tiles are quite distinct. George Norrie says, did it look like it just appeared? James Latatsky says, it just appeared. It just appeared and it was very sharp. Now, let me give you an exact description. This Mobius strip and all of this. Take a piece of spaghetti about 6 inches long. I'm just saying, in practical terms, to form a model of it. Get it wet or boil it and let it drop and start bunching up on itself. But at the very end that you're holding, allow it to droop downwards and stick out. Now that was super clear, that portion of it. It was a truncated, it was a solid light yellow, and it was surrounded by a different shade of yellow cloud. So, I'm looking at this, taking notes of it, and it looked like in just a few minutes ago, I looked back at my original drawing of it because I wanted to catch the impact. And as someone, I guess, I noted to someone and they repeated it, Bigelow repeated it to George Knapp, it looked very much like the cover of Tubular Bells, the album from back, I guess it was in the 80s, except it wasn't chrome, it was yellow, and it was solid, quite clear, and then it got fuzzy as the droopy portion went into the cloud. And that was it. This crazy, weird, moving object just materializing in the air in Skinwalker Ranch. I think it was it one of the homesteads? I forget. Was it Homestead 2? Anyway. And when he saw that, that is what led to the creation of OSAP. But that's not the end of the story. He says there was nothing dramatic about it. Yeah, just a crazy Mobius loop with a bunch of weird ethereal smoke in the middle of nowhere, but not dramatic. And that's when we went into a discussion of, I made the comment, well, is this your decorating style? Yeah, because he didn't let anybody know what he was saying. He just kind of went on with the conversation. And Gene said, oh, yes, this is my decorating style. Strange, though, but, before you showed up, a cross flew out of the bathroom, horizontally into the wash basket on top of the washing machine. So I'm thinking, well, that's when we went back and we went right through where the object was, as we all went back and toured the rest of the house and had further discussions about what was going on there. So it's not a complex story, but that's it. That's nuts. So right before James Latatsky saw this crazy Mobius loop that led to the creation of OSAP, the ranch managers had this cross fly across the room. That's insane. I'd never heard this part of the story before. That's nuts. Is that important in any way? I mean, it's the cross. Does that mean anything in this context? I don't know. But George Knapp adds some, he says, just to add some context to this, Jim only made one visit on behalf of the Defense Intelligence Agency to figure out whether there was a justification for a study. Yeah, that's why he went out there. He had read this book, and Hunt for the Skinwalker, and then he went out there to take a look at the place, and had this crazy experience. And then he said, "Yep, there's a justification for a study." George Knapp says he's there on the ranch for a short period of time. He has an experience. This thing appears in the air, and only he can see it. It's just for him. And that sight, that event, is what led to the creation of the program and convinced him that something was really going on. He went back to Washington, talked with Harry Reid, and set this thing in motion, designed the program. He is being too modest, I think. That is crazy. Yeah, and Joe Murgia says, did something want Skinwalker Ranch to be studied? Is that why it performed for James Latasky? Why? So it could spread via the hitchhiker effect? Yeah, I've actually talked about this before on the channel. Why indeed did the Skinwalker present this to James Latasky? And I say the Skinwalker, but the intelligence behind the phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch, let us say. Why did it present this object to James Latasky? This intelligence has displayed prescience numerous times on the ranch, knowing things that were going to happen in the future. And they've even called it a precognitive intelligence. So if that's the case, did it know that showing this object to James would start the formation of OSAP and lead to the study of the ranch itself? And if that's true, if it wanted the ranch to be studied, why does it go out of its way to hide itself from people? It reveals just enough of itself to keep people interested without revealing too much, without actually giving the game away and showing what it is. Is that the mischievous trickster element of it, that it just wants to tantalize and tease? Is that, Jacques Vallée has called the whole phenomenon a barometer of human consciousness in a way, where it's reflecting how awake we are. I'm paraphrasing. And, I guess the hope is someday we will be awake enough as a general population for the phenomenon to actually reveal itself to the world. I hope that happens. But yeah, so there's definitely a trickster element to this. But did it want to lead to the study of the ranch? And I don't want to make light of the intelligence behind the phenomenon at the ranch, because, it's very intriguing and I love the mystery there. But there have been some negative effects from it, some health effects and some scary things that have happened on the ranch. So it's not all playful tricksterness, but it is the closest thing to the Twilight Zone that I know of on Earth at this time. There are a few other places similar to Skinwalker Ranch, but nothing that's been studied and has the wealth of data, and as much as we have a wealth of data, at Skinwalker Ranch. It's just an amazing place. I love studying it. I love just the idea of it. I would love even more to know what the heck is going on there. But yeah, so we have these synchronicities with the Exorcist, with the tubular bells thing. So I thought that was some new information that I didn't know. So I thought you might find that interesting. And so kind of a new perspective on this whole thing. And I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. That really helps. Please comment below. Let me know what you think about all this craziness. Please consider becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below to support the channel, or leave a tip in the tip jar with the super thanks feature below. And most importantly, become a subscriber to the channel. And please remember to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. So until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Roads signing out.